Welcome to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. Happy Halloween, everyone. Did I just say happy? Happy Halloween, everyone. You could be happy. I mean, maybe if you dressed as a rabbit, that, you know, that's more of an Easter thing. White rabbit, down the rabbit hole. There you go. Maybe some of you Mad Hatters have dressed as a rabbit tonight. I don't know, or maybe you dressed as a Cheshire Cat or the Mad Hatter himself. I don't know. Check out Shana. She's got her Halloween costume on tonight. This is all you got for me. Usually I do a vampire thing and I have like zero makeup. I just like set out a display of paranormal equipment. And Vanessa, what about you? What you got going on?
I came as a tired bitch.
Oh, nice.
So,
well, I am drinking. Hey, I am being festive. I am drinking apple cider. There we go.
There you go.
It's not the good stuff, though. You know, I have not had good apple cider since I was a kid. I don't know what it was about the orchards out in Massachusetts when I was a kid growing up, but it was like their apple cider out there had like an extra kick to it. That was some good shit.
You know, I've never had any.
No?
Never.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I must have issues.
Sorry.
I've never had any. I need to try it.
There you go.
Sorry.
So, no, you're all right. So tonight we are going to talk about the truth about Halloween. And somebody said something about a 2-hour episode. Were we still doing that? Because we did 2 hours last week.
I said, this is new to me.
So,
but whatever you say, oh fearless leader. Yeah, I believe that.
Wherever we take it, it's going to go. So, just, I guess a couple things. Of course, we have Ghosty here. Ghosty, get your Ghosty. Paranormalmedia.com, get your Ghosty. The t-shirts you can also get. I only have like a couple left of the ones that I actually have. So, you can just go to Spreadshirt.com/HauntedRoadMedia. For those that want hoodies, if you didn't see the post that was made last week, hoodies are available now. So Spreadshirt.com/HauntedRoadMedia. It's actually shop.spreadshirt.com/HauntedRoadMedia. You need to use the shop. So, and you will find your Edge of the Rabbit Hole hoodies. Since I know y'all wanted them. we just have the Edge of the Rabbit Hole design. Down the road we'll come out with some more designs. It's been an extremely busy freaking month.
Yes.
As much as I've enjoyed most of it, because there were some bad things along the way, I'm actually glad to see October end, just to get a few things off my plate, because it's been nuts.
True story.
Yeah.
We're just like we were just talking about. Hell, I have this weekend off. Next weekend I'm driving 15 hours again to West Virginia.
Yeah.
In 3 days, 15 hours there and back.
That's a long drive.
Uh-huh.
Done drives like that before.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of caffeine going into this body.
Yep.
A lot.
Yep.
You know, we have figured out what travels well for food. Pizza. Pizza.
You know, that's one of the problems I have with traveling. And Shana and I don't know how many times we've talked about the types of food on the road to eat that are healthy.
Yeah.
You know, because I have liver issues, and you know, I gain weight from traveling because all that time in the car. And the best stuff that travels well, you know, is the crap. You know, okay, you're saying pizza, burgers, you know, finger foods. It's all, you know, any exit you get off is all fast food, fast food, fast food. You know, and the stuff that is like might be a little bit better, you know, is a pain in the ass to eat in the car. You know, so like Chipotle is a place that you can do healthy. I mean, you can load it up with a lot of crap, but because you select your foods that go in it, you can do it healthy. But it's really difficult to eat in the car.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So, looks like somebody here on the chat said a no pulled pork.
Yeah, no pulled pork. Yeah, Robert White. No pulled pork.
Yeah.
So everybody was in the chat. All the Mad Hatters were wishing everybody a happy Halloween. I saw, so that was very cool. Very
rest
cool.
assured, I won't be eating pulled pork unless I make it again.
Yeah.
Okay? Because that was not fun.
Shoutout recommendations for food to travel with. This is totally off topic from our topic for tonight.
Shana?
Yes.
Suggestions for eating well on the road?
Sorry, I cut out. Fruit is good for me. I mean, if you bring a cooler and put one of those ice packs in it, Mike, that lasts for like 24 hours.
I have those.
And keep stuff frozen, which I think is in my freezer, by the way.
Huh.
Oh, shit.
That's not a bad idea.
I did leave those there, didn't I?
Yes.
I got with my robe there, too.
I'm actually taking my crock pot with me because I promised Chris, my buddy, I have promised him for 3 years now my homemade pot roast.
Oh, okay.
So I'm actually taking my crock pot with me, and since we'll get to the hotel before they do, I'm making pot roast in the hotel.
Nice. That's
so
pretty cool.
We can have a nice homemade dinner. We don't have to go spend a bunch of money at restaurants when everybody gets there.
Yeah.
You know, and just sit and chill with booze and meat and taters. It'll be good. That's all you need in life, you know. But yeah, I'm actually doing that. So that's not so bad. That's not fast food. I'll just eat the white cheddar cheese puffs on the way there. So anyway.
Okay, a couple things, and Andrew Cubbage mentioned one. First of all, I need to say happy birthday to my dad. Halloween is his birthday. He was born Halloween night, and no, he doesn't believe in ghosts. So, but you know,
Wow.
but he would always, joke around and kind of jokingly gripe about having to hand out candy on his birthday. So, I gotta say happy birthday to him. Andrew Cubbage brought up the drawing for the book. We're going to have to do the drawing next week. I'll just be honest. I haven't had time to put all write up all the names and cut them out and put them in the hat. Plain and simple. We've got all the submissions, and people have continued to put the submissions. I just haven't had time, people. I was driving, actually, I made it here in under 8 hours yesterday. But,
wow.
Yeah, basically my bladder hates me.
Gotcha.
I was trying to get here last night to get that investigation video that Shana and I did at the haunted house last Friday. To have that as our special Halloween investigation video. So basically, that was my yesterday. Was and Shana and I had a little bit of a morning together yesterday, but it was she was getting ready for work and I was getting ready to go. I drove, then got here, put the video out, made a couple posts about it, and went to bed. Woke up, went to work, got stuff ready for the show tonight. That's been it. So we'll do the drawing next week. It'll give other people an opportunity to get an entry in. So I'm sorry, no drawing tonight. So we'll do it next week. We'll do it next week. That's just I'm being honest about it.
It's hard to schedule additional shit in October because you just are so damn busy.
It really is.
This has been a crazy, crazy, crazy month.
Yeah. October's our month. What are you going to do,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, most definitely. But we were going to talk about,
let's get into it.
This month, the origins of Halloween.
Yes, because this show is actually on Halloween. We won't have it on Halloween for another 7 years, so let's talk about it.
Oh, yeah. And it's interesting. It's I think, for the most part, people have somewhat of an idea of where it actually comes from. What I found interesting is, and maybe y'all can explain this to me because I can't, wrap my brain around it. We all know that it's basically, Celtic origins. It comes from Salem, okay, which is, you know, I mean, you know that the bell's getting thinner, you're honoring your deceased loved ones, you're leaving food out to keep the mischief down. We all know that. But then the holiday was adopted by the church.
Yeah. Well,
it became All Hallows Eve, or what were you going to say, Mike?
Yeah. No, I'm just agreeing with you. I mean, basically, you had the meshing here of two different cultures, because the church had their, you know, All Saints Day. It was on November 1st, the Feast of All Saints. And then, yeah, you had the Celtics with their belief system, and basically as a you know, as the church pushed northward and England, I don't even know what you want to call it. You know, I guess invaded. It was invaded by the Continentals, for lack of a better term, and the religion was pushed into there. Thank you, outside. Appreciate that. You know, the best way, of course, to kind of integrate the locals into your, you know, religion, to try to proselytize, is to take on some of their customs. Well, hey, you both have major events going on at the same time, so let's mesh them together.
Well, and I mean, the thing is, there is some argument as to which came first. You know, because because I mean, the church has been around considerably less time than what we consider pagan religions. There are actually ties to this that go back to the Romans.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. When the Romans invaded, right?
Yeah. I mean, even the Reformed Christianity. You know, before you had those type of churches.
Yeah. Well, the Celts are already doing their religion. I mean, or doing their ceremonies and their stuff before the Romans came around. When the Romans came around, they had their own stuff that they'd been doing for a while. So basically, it was these two meeting for the first time. They already both had stuff going on. I mean, yeah, you can make an argument on either side which one came first. Who knows? You know, because both have been around for a long time.
Easter and everything else, you know, it's kind of the same thing.
Easter was the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, but what I find fascinating is that if it did have what they believe to be, you know, if they did believe those Christian origins right there, then why now are so many churches, schools even taking on the idea of being against it? But you can't even dress up in the schools here in Oklahoma, in most of them.
Yeah, they just don't.
Because they
want everything to be just vanilla. Lynn's White is asking me about Periscope. I forgot to set it up.
Yeah, I saw that, but I wasn't going to say anything because I didn't want to put more stress on it.
All right, you know what? Hey, I've already disappointed about the drawing, which we'll have next week. Let me not disappoint about this. You two converse amongst each other. Shauna, you can chime in about Halloween. I'm going to put it on the Skype only while I set up Periscope.
What do you think, Shauna?
I'm just listening. I'm just glad it's Halloween, because Halloween is like my Christmas.
Yes.
I mean, even though my decorations in my house, you know, pretty much are Halloween all year round, but like literally my mother hates it because, you know, she's a Christmas person, and, you know, my idea of a Christmas decoration is to pop a red candle in there somewhere and have like this little coffee table Christmas tree that doesn't even light up, and I just slap it down and say, hey, Merry Christmas, you know. And she hates it. She hates it. She's always trying to buy me decorations and stuff like that, and I never put them up, and she hates it. But, you know, I got pumpkins and ghosts and, you know, black and candelabras and stuff with, you know, skulls.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That would be beautiful as far as I'm concerned. But, like, are there, do you have any specific rituals or anything that you do around this time that are specific to that? I mean, do you have a Salem ritual that you do that you plan on passing down to your children, or is it just the fact that it just feels like a more comfortable holiday for you?
Well, you know, I do a little candle ritual every year. As for passing something down to my kids, we haven't really discussed this part of my lifestyle, so I will probably wait until they get a little bit older, or unless they ask me. And I wanted to leave it up to them. I didn't really have much of a choice whenever I was growing up, and it wasn't until I got out on my own that I was like, I know there's other stuff going on out there, and I prefer to research before settling on something.
Absolutely.
And this, feels better to me. I'm more comfortable, and like Mike, I don't really like anything, organized, and someone telling me that if I don't believe this or do that, then I'm gonna burn for eternity and stuff like that, it's retarded. So I don't buy into all that. But from a paranormal standpoint, I feel like things are a little more intense around this time of year. The veil seems definitely a lot thinner. I personally have more activity, personally. I've had more probably, this fall, more than I've had ever, I don't know what it is specifically about this year rather than any other years, but,
all right.
Yeah, as soon as October hit, it was just crazy.
Real quick, I gotta say hi to our periscopers. Hi down there. I'll do this better next time, I promise.
I want to address something in the chat real quick. This is from Tiffany Wheeler, and I thought this was interesting because I've never noticed this.
Okay.
Why do they associate Halloween with vampirism? And in all honesty, if I'm being completely fair, I've never noticed that in the vampire culture that it seemed any more prominent than any other time of the year. Aside from the fact that maybe, vampire scary movies come out,
Right.
Around that time, I've never really noticed an association with it. So I find it interesting that somebody else has.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's popular culture because, we started dressing up as, spooks and all that. Well, vampires were another one of the spooks to dress up as. So that's where the association came in. And it just seemed natural that for dressing up as ghosts and goblins and other things around that time, we'll lump in vampires because they're kind of creepy. And then, of course, we have all the ghost stories and scary movies and all that stuff. So that's how it all got lumped in together.
They're creepy sexy. Creepy sexy.
Okay.
I can't help it. I've always had a thing for vampires and werewolves. I'm a weird one.
Shana makes a sexy vampire.
Yeah. But I just find it fascinating. I wonder, especially like one of the guys in here was calling where I live Oklahoma, which is true. There are so many aspects of Halloween or Samhain or All Hallows Eve, that are very mild and family friendly. Yet when you live in a place like where I live, in schools and businesses and everything else, it's very very watered down. You're not allowed to really think outside the box,
Yeah.
And they assume that these are all bad things.
Yeah, I think it's coming twofold these days. I mean, where you're at in Oklahoma, very, very conservative area, so they want to take that type of stuff out of Halloween, and then downtown Oklahoma City, they got crosses on the high-rise buildings during Christmas. So you have that kind of culture there.
That's what kills me is, they down Halloween without realizing, what it's really about.
Right.
Take the commercialized part out of it and realize what it's really about is honoring those who have passed before you. But then they
considering they had All Saints Day, forever.
Yeah.
So.
But they celebrate and commercialize the hell out of Christmas.
Yeah.
I just don't understand that. It boggles my mind. Like I said, you can't even dress up in most.
So they want Jesus to make more money than Dracula.
Hey, you know what? Count Chocula, he's killed it. Okay.
And there's Andrew Cubbage. Why did the churches fear Halloween? Because it's big business.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what it comes down to. I mean, I hate to say it because you know, I mean, I don't want to hammer on anybody's belief. Okay, I mean, but you know, when it comes down to, especially out in your area, Vanessa, those churches out there, they really are about, you know, being bigger and badder and better. And if you don't have a huge building with the best band and the best sound system and all this crap going on, then you're not it. You know, and you know, the fact that they are not taxed at all, they're rolling. So
yeah. Well, here's a shocker. I know someone who, I haven't talked to him in years, but I know someone who is so unbelievably against Halloween because it's the evil holiday.
And now that one I hate. I fucking hate that one.
Yet, they go to a church that you have to pass a credit check to be a member of.
Ooh.
Wow. You have to pass a credit check to be a member of this church.
Shana, I'm sure you have some opinions about Halloween being quote-unquote evil. I'm going to hear your opinion on that.
Halloween being what? I'm sorry,
evil.
my super loud furnace is on.
No. Her furnace is pretty loud. Yeah, what Vanessa was saying, the Halloween being quote-unquote evil, and those people that say that. And I'm sure you have some opinions.
Yeah, I don't really see Halloween as evil, of course.
Right.
There are human beings that are more evil just on a regular basis than taking out one day, one holiday, to be evil. I'm more worried about that every day than I am just one day of the year. Yeah, I mean, I think that the reason that there's a lot of people that view it that way, you know, is because from probably a religious standpoint, of course, whatever they were brainwashed or programmed to believe, or maybe at a young age they were, you know, taught to fear it, you know, scary monsters, you know, in the dark, and Halloween is, you know, when all of the monsters come out and stuff like that. But you know, I love Halloween.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. My kids have fun.
Well, I think what it boils down to, and maybe not so much today, but maybe where the fear came from is, you know, it under the guise of Salem, under the way that we celebrate that, it's an honoring of the dead. Yeah. It's an honoring of them. It's realizing they've passed on and welcoming them, you know, back, setting a place at the table, all this good stuff, setting the food out. But I think it's a reminder of mortality, because that's what you're doing. And I think that's one of the things that you know, really bothers people is it's one thing, you know, to say I'm going to go to heaven when I die. It's another thing to say I'm going to die.
Right. But we all are. That's the one thing we all have in common is sorry guys, we are all going to die.
None of us is out of here alive.
Yeah, we're not getting out of here alive. Some of it comes, like you're saying, okay, you're honoring the dead, like the dressing up part of it, and I know on the like the Catholic Church side of it, the way when that first, you know, was coming out, and you know, when they were doing All Saints Day and the Feast of All Saints and all that, they were dressing up as their favorite saints. And then you had all these other customs get intermixed with it as well, as they started to merge and do their thing, where you know, part of it was dressing up as something scary to scare off the evil spirits. So it was like that was part of the whole thing, was, you know, this meshing of it, and you know, we're all dressing up as something. And whether it was your favorite saint or whether it was, you know, something to scare off the evil spirits, none of it was evil itself.
Exactly.
You know, at all.
Exactly. Behind Samhain, it wasn't necessarily to scare them off, to scare off the negative spirits or anything that might come through. It was to make them think that you were one of them, so that they wouldn't want to take you with them.
Okay.
They would think that you were already deceased. which is kind of silly when you look at it that way, but that's why they did it. You know, a lot of people don't realize that the jack-o'-lantern, what we call a jack-o'-lantern, a pumpkin, you know, thing we carve, you know, put in there, you know, just to decorate our homes. Those were originally gourds that had just random stuff, not even a face that was really carved into them. And when you went to your Salem feast, when you're honoring your dead, you would take the ashes from the fires, the embers, the still lit embers, and you would put them inside these hollowed out gourds, and those would light your way back home. You know, it's something just as simple as that. It's not, you know, it was never intended to be scary. And I mean, I think just like anything, we have, you know, commercialism to thank for that, which is still fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of really what it comes down to. Is, you know, I mean, and you know, I like the movie Halloween. You know, the original one. You know, it's a slasher flick, but it's, you know, it scares you, and that's kind of the point. But that's where, you know, the commercialism and, you know, scary movies kind of make that whole thing into, oh, it's something evil, and, you know, but it's not. It just isn't. I mean,
I wonder.
Well, thank you down there in Periscope for the hearts. Appreciate it.
I wonder if, you know, if we went back to not to the Dark Ages, but if...
Hey, I'm sorry. I got to stop you real quick, because this is, and it's a shout-out. This person has not been able to get into our chat just because of the time difference for like weeks, and I kept promising a shout-out, and I kept failing because I kept forgetting. But they're in there now. Rika Yamakaze, thank you for showing up this evening and joining us. I know your time difference is makes it tough for you to be in the chat. You usually watch us after the fact on the replay, so I do want to throw that out right now. Thank you very much.
Where are they at?
Well, given the name, I believe Japan.
Okay. Well, you never know. You never know. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, they said they went trick-or-treating with their kids tonight and was Master Chief from Halo. The kids loved it. That is amazing. That is amazing. Love that. That just tickles me. But yeah, it just, I don't know, it makes me wonder if we took all the, you know, all the Hollywood out of everything and went back to the roots of it, if people would still think the way that they do. Would they find something to disagree with? Because, like we said, even in the beginning, it wasn't a disagreement, it was an acclamation.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know. I don't really know why it happened that way, but except for, like you said, money.
That's what it usually comes down to.
I know, but that just makes me sad. It just makes me sad. So, I'm trying to think of some other interesting things about it that... it was also, you guys will love this, it was also considered a time with the Celts that the fairies would actually come out, and they would be at their most mischievous.
Right.
Which they were known for. And that was another reason that the Celts put out food, because if you don't feed a fairy, they get really, really, really frisky.
Well, there's a lot of, there's so many fairy legends. Go ahead, Shana.
I know Mike can.
Yeah.
What's that? I can what?
If he doesn't get fed whenever he needs to be fed, it's more than frisky. He's more cranky than anything else.
Yeah, I get hangry.
Well,
He's a cranky fairy.
There you go. That just doesn't sound good.
No. Yeah, I take that back. No.
That's what you've got to be next year, Mike, is a cranky fairy. Okay.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, I found that interesting, because that was something I didn't even know. You know, that was one thing that I had never associated with Halloween was fairies. I don't know why I never did.
Well, you know, and Shana and I have been doing some fairy research lately just because of our experience on the Goldenrod almost a year ago now. And it's really hard to know what in the world is the truth out there, because a lot of the books that we had come across when we started reading, they were depicting this whole fairy social structure. And it's like, how in the world do you know what the fairy social structure is? Have you sat down with the fairy and actually asked the person, what's your social structure? And so I kind of like took those with a grain of salt, you know. So you know, a lot of it's like built on, you know, legends and folklore, you know, passed down over the ages, and it's really hard to get down to the original truth. So you know, we started asking around, hey, is there anybody else that's had some sort of, you know, fairy experience, and you can tell us exactly what you saw, what your experience was, and all that, because all of this is, you know, some of it's so ancient that you have trying to get to that original bit of truth, because there is an original bit of truth in there somewhere, but trying to get down into it, I mean, that's a lifetime of research there.
This is making me wonder. I'm trying to think back when y'all had the experiences of the goldenrod that you did. Oh. Were they around this time of year?
Ether Shadow, hang on a second. Ether Shadow. Imagine Mike in a fairy outfit eating a Snickers bar. Let's not. Let's not do that.
Oh, and Fran put in there the symbolism of Samhain is third harvest, the dark mysteries, rebirth through death. And that is true, because with Samhain, tomorrow is the new year.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. With Salem, it's the New Year for that, and then for the church, it was the Feast of All Saints. So it's like these two things just collided at the exact same time, and that's why they just intermarried their traditions.
Yeah, but Fran's absolutely correct on that. But going back to my question, when y'all had your experience that we believe to be involved, was that during the month of October?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Yeah, it was.
It was?
I think so, right?
I missed it because I was busy being a smartass.
Or even close to it.
It was November.
What?
It was November. Oh, still, that's really close. I was asking her if when y'all had your your fairy experience at the goldenrod.
It was the Saturday after. It was the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's still interesting. That's interesting because it's very close. So
I did find something else that I thought was interesting during the book signing event at Mineral Springs. Bridget Willis, who's from Illinois, came, and she had a picture that was similar to one that I had taken in two different cemeteries, and the anomalies both looked like fairies. They were almost identical.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really interesting, because when she first showed us that photograph, I thought she had somehow grabbed Shana's, because Shana had shown me hers a long time ago.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Now that makes one wonder. I need to ask her when she took that. Maybe start piecing the pieces together if it was around the same time of year, just a different year.
Mine. Whenever I took that one, it was. Fall was just starting. I want to say it was in September, because it was still warm enough outside that I just took a jacket with me and put it on later. So I remember it was in September.
Okay.
I'll have to show you.
So
she sent me her picture, and then I have mine. So I'll have to. I mean, if you do a side by side, it's just almost, and it's over like low stones. Like the ones that are lower to the ground. It looks like the same cemetery. It's just so weird. So
everything looks exactly the same. It was really uncanny.
That's really interesting. Now, that's something we need to find out about the time frame of hers compared to the time frame of yours, weather conditions, location, everything, because that's how we start to piece these things together.
Right.
Find those little pieces of the puzzle. It's making me wonder now if in those pictures, and Mike, you've seen them in my last book, the ones, even some of them that couldn't make them in, that couldn't make it into the book, if that's not what we were seeing. Those glowing.
It's possible.
Shana,
what you had captured, though, Vanessa, was a little bit different. Because yours was more like a translucent ball of light, where Shauna's and Bridget's photos, you could actually see the outline of the fairy. You know, you could see little wings and all of that going on.
I mean, I wanted to blow it off as a bug, but in scale to everything else around it, it would have had to be a huge bug, and there was no way it was a bat.
And extremely reflective for a bug.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was bright. Like, it was giving off, I mean, it looked like it was giving off its own light. So.
Tiffany Wheeler says, stop saying fairies, they're gnomes. Well, Tiffany, that's what we're trying to figure out. That's exactly what they are, you know, but, you know, that's what we're trying to figure out. I know plenty of people who have had what we consider to be fairy experiences.
Well, and I'm sure a fairy or a gnome would say, don't call us that either.
Yeah.
Because that's probably not what they call themselves. You know, whatever they may be. It's a name we have assigned to them. What's that?
Yes. Yes.
And then does everything just kind of trickle down underneath that, like sprites and...
Let me look up, because there is actually, and I was just thinking of this, and for the life of me, I cannot remember exactly how to say it, so I'm going to look it up. Give me just a second, talk amongst yourselves, but there's a name that we need to know about here. Hold on one second.
Andrew coached through in there, just kind of random. Mike actually have a friend who is related to Rebecca Nurse. So that's Salem witch trial stuff right there.
Yeah.
That's really random, but that's cool, Andrew.
Yeah, I had 3 relatives in the Salem witch trials. Deliverance Hobbs, her husband and her stepdaughter. Well, her stepdaughter not by blood, and her husband not by blood, but Deliverance Hobbs was my relative.
Oh, okay.
In the Salem witch trials. Yeah. So, but there is, trying to remember the name. See here. I can't pronounce it, but it's spelled Sidhe.
And Fran just put that in there.
Did she really?
Yep.
And see, I'm on Google, so I couldn't even see what she put in there. She knew what I was going for.
Yep.
Laurel K. Hamilton has a series where they talk about all of that. Fae and city. I don't know. I'm sure it's not pronounced like it's spelled. But
yeah. I love me some Fran. She knew. She knew what I was going for. You know? She just like, yeah.
It's an Irish called
yeah. She put down AES and then SIDHE.
Yeah, so who speaks ancient Irish around here?
I actually have connections, so if you want me to find out what that means, I will. I will do that. But yeah, it just kind of makes me wonder, you know, with both y'all's and Bridget's experience with that. So, and then I'm sorry, I'm sitting here reading this. They've got some cool stuff in here talking about Black Sabbath and fairy boots.
I saw that.
There you go. That's awesome. Let's see here.
I'm sorry, I'm just not going to look at Black Sabbath to educate me on lore and legends.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Well, I'm trying to think of some of the other things that are associated with the origination of what we consider Halloween. And it's just all... Well, it's all slipping from my brain now.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of the thing. It's over the years, you know, so much gets lost to time of, you know, what the original traditions were, and now what it's become with all the commercialism, where it's just, you know, dressing up, going and getting candy and all that, and it was so much more. You know, there was you know, a lot more. There's a lot more feasting going on. You know, the whole, you know, the bobbing for apples and all that. That was all a part of it a long time ago. And, you know, a lot of those customs have gone by the wayside. I mean, we did it a little bit as, you know, when I was a kid, but you know, it's still kind of all, you know, over time gone further and further away from what the custom is now. So, but it was a whole huge feast, and that's just it's not a feast like that anymore. It's one night of going around to, you know, the houses and getting candy, and that's about it these days.
Fran says that it's pronounced Shay.
Shay. Okay.
And if I'm remembering correctly, that sounds about right.
Okay.
So that's really cool. Fran is on the ball tonight. I'm loving me some Fran.
What is going on here? There's more Salem stuff getting thrown out there. I hear there's Goody Tate. My grandmother's maiden name was Tate. All my family is from around Salem. Isn't good to take. Okay, so Donna has connections too. There we go.
Yeah, which is kind of funny that they're bringing that up, because when Gray and Janet and I were on our way back from New Orleans, that is our next destination.
Cool.
We want to go to Salem.
Cool.
You know,
I haven't been there since I was little. I definitely want to get back there. Shana, we're going sometime.
I'd love to go there.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd love to
I'll
go
let
there.
you guys know when we go, because y'all just
I probably died there in another life, so I'm sure.
We're not going to go over Halloween because it'll just be too expensive. So we're going to go
I'm
at a
sure it
different
gets
time
crazy
of year.
that time of year.
Exactly, and I figure, they're going to talk to me regardless. It doesn't matter what day of the year it is. So it would be cool, yes, but it's not mandatory that I go at that time of year. But yeah, it's just kind of funny. Everybody's going off on their own little tangents on that.
Yeah, that's fine. See, and that's another thing that gets associated with this time of year is, witches and Salem witch trial and all that. I mean, come on, think about it. When the season first started, I mean, I think you were both posting stuff about Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's just because that's when they play it more.
I know.
But you see, Sean and I are both practitioners. 365, 24/7. It doesn't matter what time or day of the year it is.
Right.
But I do notice, that you see a lot more seasonal witches popping up around this time.
Oh, yeah.
And then they'll go off the habit,
Yeah, they're dusting off the broom right now.
Yeah, they hop off the broom for about 9 months, and then they hop back on it, and that's fine.
I think the reason that happens is because when Halloween comes around, it's more accepted to act, so they're more comfortable. Society accepts it a little more, especially in small towns like the one that I live in, where, a lot of people will be like, oh, you're wearing a mask, for Halloween, but, and I know that the majority of them are probably thinking you kind of, look kind of witchy anyway all year round, so I don't blend, I've tried to, but I'm just not comfortable that way, so yeah, it is what it is.
So, I used to wear that costume of social acceptance. It looks stupid on me.
Then let me ask this. What can we do to make Halloween acceptable more year-round? Or at least the spirit of Halloween accepted more year-round?
I hate to say it, but I don't think there's a way.
Everybody would have to be a little more open-minded about it. And I don't think that the world as a whole, or at least most of society, wants to or is capable of it. Some people, don't care. Other people wished other people would care. And then there's just people that, that's what it would take. Everybody would have to be open-minded to it. And there's just not a lot of that.
Like Robert White. I have to hit show on this. But it says, force people to wear I'm into witchy shit shirts all year round.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I have to thank, I think that's Lynn's that's down there in Periscope hitting all the hearts. So I got to thank her for that. And I know I did say I was going to try to figure out a better setup for the Periscope this time around, and I almost totally forgot. So we'll fix that next time.
The other thing, Mike, one of the things is that I think the reason that it's not accepted all year round, that type of mentality, or what Shana and I do, is that there are still quite a few people in the field, in our field, in what we do, who still don't agree with what I do.
Well, that's what it, when it comes to,
no idea.
When it comes to our field, there's so many different theories out there, and schools of thought that you could take. It's some of the arguments that I've seen are just absolutely ridiculous because
I can't. That is the one thing that I can't wrap my brain around, is that when we're in the same field doing the same job, why am I evil for it?
Right.
Because I don't give credit to one individual. So, I mean, you have to admit that is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's kind of why we're never going to see acceptance of it all year round. You know, and I think a lot of people think, oh, well, the scary and the spooky and the ghosts and the goblins and whatever,
well,
that's cool for 2.5 months out of the year.
Right.
The rest of the time, you know, I'm like this, you know.
Oh, yeah, it's just saying, okay, you know, we're playing for a month. But, you know, that, you know, aside from the dress-up part of it, that other world is out there. And I guess people don't really want to recognize that all year round, even though it's with us all year round. And I think in more ancient cultures, it was something that they, you know, consistently thought of all the time. I mean, you take like some of these, like ancient Chinese cultures where, you know, they would basically worship their ancestors, and they would have temples dedicated to their ancestors. They'd go there every freaking day, you know, and so that was integrated within their culture, and we just don't really have that today.
No, we don't. Now, you can walk into any local cemetery and see how that is not the case.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's one of the things. Gray and I go, and we visit quite a few of them around here.
So do Shana and I do cemetery crawls.
Oh, y'all beat us. But it hurts my heart, you know, to see so many people forgotten.
Yeah, you know, and Shana will go around and all the little decorations that have fallen down, Shana will go pick those up and put them back up, and, you know, yeah, all those people have been forgotten.
Exactly. And that never, well, I can't say never, but that didn't happen before. You know, I mean, they revered their ancestors. They looked to them even after their passing for guidance.
Yep.
You know, they just believed that it was easier to communicate at this time of year. But they still communicated throughout the year. You know, I mean, and not just their ancestors, oracles. They did this. They went to oracle, the same situation. You know, for guidance. You know, the Spartans did that. You know, many cultures have done that.
Oracles of Delphi.
But yes, but exactly. And I mean, we all kind of know, you know, how that went, but no one does that anymore. It's like I put you in the ground, or I put you in a mausoleum, or whatever, and peace out.
Yeah.
That's really what it is, you know. And granted, I'm sure that certain families die out, and there's nobody to care for them. But when you see ones who died 5 years ago, and it looks like no one has ever been back to their grave, that just kind of shows how we as society look at those who have passed before us. As an afterthought. Oh, it's a holiday, I better go say hi. Oh,
yeah, you'll see them there like around Mother's Day. Like around Mother's Day, people will go.
Exactly. And I think that's part of the problem, you know. And it's what I said earlier, being reminded of mortality is extremely uncomfortable to people.
Yeah. What do you think, Shana? We've been to a lot of cemeteries, kind of in the same vein.
Yeah. I mean, you can tell. It is really sad. Well, one thing that I do want to say, like Schumann Cemetery that we went to, that's family of mine. A lot of it is, some of it's kind of distant, but there's several Schumanns in the area, younger, able-bodied people who could do the hike that it takes forever to get up to. And the cemetery is so overgrown and it's just terrible. My dad, and actually some of the people from the archaeology department would go up there several times a year, and then it kind of dwindled down to once a year. But people that weren't even related were going up there and trying to do the upkeep and the maintenance, until my dad just got, to the point where he just couldn't do that hike anymore. But like I said, there's, they'll hunt up in the woods, but they won't go take care of the cemetery,
Yeah, a young punk that was going to shoot us.
Yeah, that's...
It was private property, you know. It was like...
It wasn't even his property.
No,
so
it wasn't even his
White
property.
ass.
And the cemetery, I don't think is private property itself.
No. No.
But yeah, and that's it. If you guys remember the photos that Shana and I had put out there a couple weeks ago of the cemetery that's all overgrown, that's what she's talking about. So there'll be a video on that.
And there's hundreds of cemeteries. Some are little, with just, you know, like family, you know, a little bit of family stones kind of scattered, and then there's other ones. I mean, there's all these. I was looking at just for my county, there's like 200 cemeteries. I mean, they're of varying sizes, and it's just, you know, some of them are just, you know, so lost, you know. I mean, it would take, you know, like a day trip, you know, to try to get up to them. I mean, you know, some of them are on private property, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just, you know, I would love, you know, to uncover, you know, all of these cemeteries, like in Farrow Cemetery. I was there with a friend of mine, Becca, and we were drawn to the woods. And it looked like the cemetery, the stones were done, and then the woods, you know, were behind it, but we were both drawn to the woods, and we got up there and took a step in, and there was a whole family buried in there.
Wow.
And, you know, you couldn't see them, and, you know, unless you knew. And so we uncovered probably 4 or 5 stones, and it was the last family that I was familiar with. But, you know, what, you know, drew us up there were, you know, because a lot of people think that, you know, people don't hang with their remains and stuff like that. Cemeteries are still active, you know. I mean, I don't know who it is, you know, that's there, or if it's like a beacon, like if you have enough of attachment, so where you can tell if someone's kind of checking you out, trying to make contact, if you're able to, you know, buzz over there, you know. I don't know how it works. But I know that cemeteries are really active, so I have to wonder, you know, it kind of felt like someone from that family, you know, was saying, you know, here I am, you know, notice me, you know, I'm still here, don't forget about me. You know, so we went up there and, you know, pulled weeds away, brushed, you know, leaves and sticks, and now all the stones are visible. And then there were some scattered, you know, flowers down, you know, that were just hanging loose in random places that didn't look like they belonged to anybody, or you couldn't really tell. So, you know, we went up there and kind of, you know, did a little, hey, you know, we see you now, so, yeah, we may be the only people that did that. I mean, their own family has obviously forgotten about them.
Yeah, probably the first one in years, and it sounds like whoever had been taking care of the cemetery just decided, oh, let it overgrow back there, you know, so.
Yeah.
Donna Gorton threw out there at HRM. I've always thought it was so sad when no one cares or is left to remember. Yeah, it is really sad. So
we saw something really interesting on the way coming back from New Orleans. Due to construction, I missed a turn. And, yeah, it was just, there was no way. It just, you couldn't make it. And so we kind of had to take another way and drive back an hour the way that we came, just a different direction. And we were driving down this little 2-lane country road to get back to this other highway we needed. And I've never seen this before. You see, you know, cemeteries out and everything, but this was literally 1 foot away from this little 2-lane highway. It was right there, just fenced in, 9 graves, just 9.
Yeah.
I've never seen something so small, so well kept, and obviously so old, but right next to a highway.
There's one, I'm trying to remember where it is, but the grave is actually in the middle of the road, and they actually built the road around it.
Oh, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, and somebody does, you know, keep it up and everything, but because of how the road came through and this grave happened to be there, they've actually done something to, you know, keep it up and block it off. So every once in a while you see something like that. But then you have these other ones that, you know, nobody does take care of. So.
Yeah, they don't care. And I mean, I don't know. It is, I'm with everybody else. It just kind of depresses me because you think that one day that might be you.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I tell everybody, you got to just cremate me, spread me in little Ziploc baggies, and everybody gets a piece.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it could be, there could be a worse plight. I mean, you think of like, you know, the catacombs of Paris, which is, you know, a bucket list, you know, or bucket list item for me, and all these skulls and bones are mixed up together. Who knows who's whom, you know?
True.
There were stories in Paris that, you know, some of the old buildings there, this was like, you know, 100 years ago or whatever, where, you know, it was a house that was next to a cemetery. And, of course, they didn't have, you know, concrete basements and stuff then. It was just, you know, your dirt wall. And it was actually, you know, pouring in from the cemetery, and so all these bodies and everything were coming into their basement. So there's all kinds of stuff like that going on in other parts of the world that, you know, think about those people, you know, body parts and skulls and stuff everywhere.
Yeah. It's kind of like with the catacombs in France. It's kind of the same feeling you get when you're in Mary King's Close. Okay. Even though there are no bones left there anymore, the fact that everything was covered up for so long, and you know that there were bones in there for so long, and they'd just been removed once everything was dug out and uncovered so that you can go down into it. And I mean, so I mean, I think it's the same kind of feeling. I know it was very bizarre being in there, but they do things very differently overseas than they do here when it comes to, at least nowadays, when it comes to their deceased. It's like I was talking to Jonathan, who did our tour in New Orleans. We were in, and it's a picture in the book, the one where I'm looking up at the tomb and I'm pointing at it.
Yeah.
That gentleman, I believe, passed away in like 1462. Okay. The date that his tomb was built was in the 1700s.
Yeah, he probably wasn't there, right? Is that kind of the point?
Yeah, but no, they still fought enough of this person 300 some odd years after their death to make sure that they had a proper resting place.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen, you know, while we have been talking about, you know, family members over time not remembering, you know, their ancestors from long ago, we have seen from time to time in some of these cemeteries, you know, just looking at the names and dates on headstones that, you know, you see a newer headstone and there's a date from the 1800s on there, and it's like, this is a new stone. Somebody actually thought to go back. So it does happen occasionally. Hundreds of years like that is a bit much, though.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And it was one of the biggest ones in the cemetery. It was at Greyfriars, I believe.
Okay.
And it was just absolutely amazing. But, you know, so, you have those instances over there, but then you also, just like in the book, you see the areas where they're turned over and broken.
Yeah, Fran had a comment. She said, but the souls are gone, are they not? We don't know. They may still be walking around. You know, I mean, that's who we interact with when we're on investigations, are these different souls. Whether that's at a cemetery, at a house, at a historic location, you know, wherever, that's a soul.
That brings up an interesting point, and something that I've thought a lot about lately, and that I would actually like to bring up, because people have asked me, they're like, well, you know, same situation. If the soul is gone, how are they interacting with you? Well, I think because we're programmed to think this way, we think of the soul as still being a contained unit. Right. When in actuality, it's kind of omnipresent. Wherever there is someone who can speak with that person, regardless of where it is, they're able to communicate. So if somebody like Shana walks into a cemetery and her little light turns on, because, you know, for whatever reason, it's going to draw those people people to her, and she's going to be able to communicate. It doesn't mean that they might be it doesn't mean that they might be standing right there. But the soul is not contained, it's omnipresent. It can be anywhere at any time. I have spoken with spirits sitting in my living room and telling me things, and I tell them to NP Paranormal, and they get confirmation by the spirits right there in Sheffield, England.
Right.
6-hour time difference, 1,500 miles.
Well, there's that idea out there that, if you start, talking about someone who has passed, that they start feeling like a little tingle or whatever, like, hey, somebody's talking about me.
Exactly. And that's something that I wanted to address for a while, and I really didn't have an end to do that. This just kind of reminded me of it. And it makes sense to me, and I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying that I'm right. But it does feel like that's what happens. They don't have to be right there, but their energy, they're drawn to you because they sense that light.
Here's an interesting one. Dawn says, I gotta scroll back up. You know what's creepy? Funeral photography and dolls made with dead children's hair. Yeah, it is creepy. Because the photography's so old, and you're looking at these, corpses that are just, stock still. You also have to kind of think back to the times. They didn't take photographs like we do today. I mean, we have it on our phones now, and we're like, thousands and thousands of photos on our phones. 30 years ago, it was, dozens of photos on, film and all that we would have. We'd have, photo books filled up with all the snapshots that we've taken. But in the 1800s, if you got a photograph done of you and your family, it was usually something very formal. You're going to a professional photographer to have something done. So it was a rare case to have a photograph of of your family and your loved ones. So a lot of times these children had never had a photograph taken of themselves before. So when these photos were taken, it was the only photo of these children that were ever taken, and the parents were having it done so they could have some sort of visual memory of that child.
Are you talking about the post-mortem photos?
Yeah.
It's very interesting. A lot of people don't realize that there were actually contraptions built to allow a deceased loved one to stand in a photograph.
Yeah, they would do that too.
Yes, there was actually a market for this. And it was, again, we embraced mortality at that time. Not because we loved the idea of dying, but because we wanted to honor those who had passed before us.
Right.
I can't name a person alive who would say, oh, Grandma just died, let's prop her up, and pull out the Kodak. It's not going to happen these days. It's just not.
No, because you already have 1,000 photographs of Grandma. So you don't need another one of her.
Yeah. But that was a really, really, really big thing. I mean, it was almost like they looked like guitar stands.
Hey,
that's fascinating.
You guys talk for a minute. Hang on, I'll go get something.
Okay. But yeah, they look like guitar stands. The high neck with the little horseshoe thing that came around to hold their head up. I mean, all different kind of ways. One of the only ways that you can really tell there's a deceased person in the photo is if their eyes are closed. Because that was the one thing they wouldn't do. They wouldn't have their eyes open. Just because things dry out. And they might not be smiling. That's the other thing, because of the gases. So they would do that, the undersew, and sew their lips together. But it's not a whole lot different than a wake. Do you think, Shana?
Yeah. It's amazing what they do, actually. The people that handle that to make, I personally would rather be cremated, and I don't, almost a lot of people that I, know don't want an open casket, don't want, I want to be cremated so, like, everybody can have peace, but also I don't want somebody to remember. I want somebody to remember me, what I looked like when I was still, alive. I don't want somebody to look at me after after all that. So I'm glad there are choices. You know,
it might be the only time my makeup's perfect.
right? You know, I mean, they're just, the stuff that they do is, it's just amazing. You know, the things that they do. I mean, and what a job. I mean, there is no way that I could do that. So.
See, and my friend Rachel, she wants to do that. Bless her. She wants to do that. My mom's family, they were still doing wakes when my mom was young, where you had the body in the living room, you know. Oh my stars!
And that's one you can actually see that there is an adult that is holding her. You see the legs underneath?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, is that little one's eyes open? Because that was one of the dead giveaways before, is that their eyes wouldn't be open.
Well, but you can see that they're like bug-eyed. So they're like being held open. It looks like to me. Yeah.
Yeah, see, they normally wouldn't do it that way because they would dry out and they would look,
right,
you know, bad. I don't have a right word for that. You know, I mean, it would be creepy, I guess. But that's just so sad. But I do understand the reasoning behind it. I truly do. I can't imagine not having a picture of my child.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine that. I'm trying to think. I thought I saw another question back through here. Oh, they were talking about the Booth Brothers movie called Dead Still. Kind of along the same thing. And Super Woody Boy said that their mom, that his mom said they had their maternal grandmother's pick done after she passed, but they destroyed it because it made them sick to see her that way. Yeah. And I mean, that's a personal choice, and I can understand that. But it makes me, I don't know, it just makes me wonder if that's, you know, part and parcel of why people don't like Halloween, and because I guess they associate it with death, and they fear death, and when that really isn't what it is at all.
Right. Yeah. They fear death, they fear the unknown, and you know, religion has done a fantastic job of striking fear into people. And so even though this came out of religion, two different types of religions, you know, it has now become what it is today, and you know, you have a religion now that keeps bashing it. It's like, it came from you. You know, a good chunk of this came from you. But yeah, it's all fear. It's all fear-based.
Spooky Spectacular 13 wants a Viking funeral. Yeah, I have often thought of that, a funeral pyre, where they shoot the arrows into me and set me on fire. But I might end up doing a jazz funeral. So one of these days, y'all be ready. I'll have it paid for.
Jazz funeral.
New Orleans, okay? Got to show up to New Orleans. That would be fun. Everybody get lit when I die.
Everybody's like putting in there, like Diane Hilbert says she's going to be cremated, and wow, I don't know.
We got morbid.
Yeah, we did. We got really morbid.
Yeah. Dia de los Muertos, Juniper. Yeah.
You want some other ones? This is, you know, First Communion here. We'll get a little more festive. You know, here's a wedding. Okay, we happy now? Is that better?
There we go. All fun stuff, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Those are all my family, by the way. From like
guys,
over 100 years ago.
How the hell did we get an hour in already?
We did. We went over an hour, yeah.
And
Bonnie Halper is like, I want a party instead of a funeral. I want Motley Crue played at my funeral, Home Sweet Home.
Oh shit! Oh my goodness!
I gotta say this. I gotta say this real quick. Earlier today, as I was getting everything ready for the show and all that, I started watching Stranger Things 2. I popped that on, and I think it's the second episode. There's a teenage party going on, and they started playing Motley Crue Shout at the Devil, and I just like jumped out of the couch and started rocking out in the middle of the living room. I was like, yeah!
I can so see that. I want Janis Joplin played at mine.
There you go.
I do. And the last song to be played is The Rose, but I want the Bette Midler version.
Okay.
I do. But I don't. No one is allowed to be sad. Gotta have a party. Gotta have good food, because we all know I love my food. Okay.
Yeah, it's just, you know, for me, what it comes down to is, you know, I think of like my grandparents. They lived good, long lives, and you know, I miss them. You know, I guess that's what I'm sad about. I'm not sad about their lives, or, you know, that they've died or whatever. I mean, they're basically, their energy is transformed into something else, is no longer in a physical body. It's just, I miss them. You know, that's kind of what it comes down to. You know, I'll see them again at some point, but, you know, right now I miss them.
Oh, and that makes sense, but you don't deny their deaths because you miss them.
No.
And I think that's where that comes into play. I was very humbled and very sad and happy, and all these unbelievably crazy emotions when I was in Hollywood Cemetery in Virginia, because I didn't know until 2 weeks before I went there that I actually had ancestors in that cemetery. And I got to see so many graves with my maiden name on them. It's not a common name.
Yeah,
it's not
that's
real common. But I got to see so many of them, and it was a very bizarre experience, but it was one that I would gladly do again, given the opportunity. You know, I don't avoid it. It doesn't make me think, okay, because here's my dead relatives, I'm dying next week.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I guess that's kind of what it feels like to me, how people look at it. But I grew up in a family, I was telling Shana, where my mom's family was still having wakes in the house. You know, so I mean, that was my mom's family, the dead brother, you know, in caskets in the living room. So it's just, I guess I look at it differently. I don't fear it. It doesn't scare me.
I need to address something in the chat real quick. Diane Hilbert, because I guess she probably came in a little bit later, was asking, no 4,000 subs winner.
I just saw that.
Yeah, not tonight. Basically what it came down to is I didn't have time. I have the names collected and all that. I just didn't have time to write the names out on the little slips of paper and cut all that out and everything, get it into the hat. I just haven't had time. So we're going to do it next week. I apologize for that, because I know I said within the video over the weekend that you know, hey, you know, we'll just do it here in a couple days, because usually after a few days nobody else is, you know, really saying I want to be in or I want to be in. There might be a couple stragglers. Usually the way it goes. So I know I said that over the weekend. We'll do it today, but it just I couldn't get it done. So
Fran just put one of my bucket list places on here. She says that she needs to travel to Pompeii because that's where a lot of her ancestors passed.
Wow.
Bucket list.
Interesting.
Bucket list right there. Fran, I want to go with you.
If you go to Pompeii, also go to Herculaneum. Okay, that has some of the, along with Pompeii, has some of the best preserved buildings of that time because of that volcanic ash. And a lot of people forget Herculaneum, but you know, there's like a full, you know, Roman amphitheater that's essentially underground now, that's perfectly preserved, and you know, things like that. So check that out. Yeah, well,
if Fran goes, I'm going with her. That's a done deal. She already put it out there, so she ain't getting away. I'm going to. That's probably third on my bucket list. Vlad's Castle being number one.
There you go.
That's going to happen. Hide and watch. But yeah.
His real castle, or the one that they always try to say is his castle?
His real castle.
Okay.
His real castle. We had an interesting situation. The people in the chat room will love this. We did the tour, and my friend Jonathan is the tour guide down there. And he actually talked a lot, which doesn't have anything to do with New Orleans, but it does with vampire culture. And it was the vampire tour. And he talked a lot about Vlad. And what he was like, and basically where everybody gets this idea of vampire, from him and everything, and the things that he did, which I'm one of those weird ones. I know that the man seems unbelievably cruel in his fashion, the way that he was able to literally, deter an entire Turkish army because of what he did. I don't think he was evil for doing it, because I didn't live back then. I didn't know what it took to be a ruler.
It was brutal. It was brutal. But you're trying to save your people too. So
exactly. So I just can't find it in my heart or soul to judge him, even for those cruelties. Because to me, if you compare him to Caligula or Nero, I mean, come on. It's not that big of a deal.
Well, yeah, the crazy Roman emperors.
Yeah. Right? He was just doing what he needed to do to protect his people, and he ruled for 30 years.
Yeah.
I really do believe, and I know translators be damned, I really do feel if I could spend the night in his actual castle, I know I could talk to that man.
Okay.
I know I could. So, Mike, work on that.
All right. I'm on it. There we go.
You okay? Just add that to the list of shit.
Add that to the list. Okay. Vlad's Castle on the way. No, it's a bucket list item. And also Elizabeth Bathory's castle, Castle Cachis. That's another one.
Yes.
A lot of great places. What about you, Shana? Bucket list item, and then we should probably wrap it up. I know you're like Ireland and Scotland.
Oh, yeah.
I wish you could go with me. I wish you could. Because we're going to be at Hellfire Club.
Oh.
Yep, I talked to my connections, and they just, they contacted me 3 days ago and said that we do not need permission to be on the property.
Really?
It doesn't even cost. You can go into it. But you know why? It's on the top of Dublin Mountain.
Wow.
Which sounds crazy. They do tours up there. They drive you up there. But if you can hike up there, you don't have to worry about getting in.
Okay.
Get in. It's a quarter of a mile hike straight up a mountain. Hide and watch. That shit's happening. It's going to happen.
Right.
If I got to crawl,
you're getting there. All right. So, well, we should probably go ahead and wrap it up. I mean, we covered a lot. I mean, we did a lot of stuff on Halloween, but then we went into some other areas too, which was kind of interesting.
I would call it the rabbit hole.
That's right. That's right. Down the rabbit hole we go. I do want to thank Lynn's White for hanging out in Periscope and on the chat again. Very cool.
Lynn's hardcore.
That is some hardcore viewing right there. I'll figure out a better. I know I said it last week. I'll figure out a better Periscope solution next time around. So yeah. So let's get into the shout outs here.
I have one.
Yeah.
I have one from somebody who is probably not in chat but watching. Rose Burnett, that I work with.
Oh, hey, Rose.
Said that she watches, but she isn't always able to get in the chat. She watches on her TV.
Cool.
Pulls it up on her. So, anyway, I wanted to give her a shout out first.
Yeah, and I know Andrew Cubbage was asking for one earlier. He had to step out, so just want to make sure he got one as well. And I already got Rika Yamakaze. There you go, second one. Okay, Lynn's White, yeah, we got you, both Periscope and here. Fran Molino, thank you for all of your comments tonight. Andrew Cox, hey, it was great to finally meet you. There is Dawn, Spooky Spectacular Dawn. Juniper, hey, thanks for dropping in tonight. Good to see you there. Jen K, there's a new Mad Hatter. She was commenting on a lot of our videos the past few days. So we had the Moberly, Missouri video blow up last week, which was pretty interesting. Joe Chandler, thank you for dropping in here. I'll show you guys over here. Get the chat screen up. Ether Shadow, thank you very much as always. And it doesn't want to bring up the chat screen, does it? Chipper Terry, thank you once again for joining us this evening. Linda Lochirko, hope I said that correctly. Thanks for dropping in tonight. Charmy Charms, I believe that was Charmy Vapes before, right?
I think so, yeah.
think so. Yeah. Charmy Vapes and shits it was at one point, right? Tammy Heitzman, thank you very much. Cheshire Cats Night, Bonnie Halperin and Donna Gorton were in the house. Jody Brewer, thank you for joining us this evening. Katie Palmer, thanks for joining us tonight. Who else we got? Carrie Parrish, thank you very much, as always. Diane Hilbert, gotcha. Hey, I got you this time. Zippy Davis, thank you as always. And I don't know if he's still in here. Robert White, is he still around tonight? I know he was in there.
He had to step out.
Okay, well, there we go. We got him. Joanne Rubino, thank you very much again.
Shannon Maitland.
I'm sorry?
Shannon Maitland.
Shannon Maitland, all right. There we go.
And Tammy Heitzman.
Tammy Heitzman, I got Tammy. Who else we got as we go up and down the list?
I want to say Gwen was in there for a minute.
Gwen was, yep. Gwen was in for a little while. James Casanova, thank you. Bethany Warner joined us again this evening, so that is awesome. And, very low battery. I didn't have my phone plugged in. Very low battery on the Periscope. Earn it. Marilyn Harmon, thank you. And anybody
Gucci
else?
Star.
Okay. And I think that is going to about do it. All right. Let me kick back over to us. So if if we missed you, you know we love you, Mad Hatters, and if we missed you, we didn't mean it. It's just trying to go back through the list and see who all. Rachel Wagner. There you go. Thank you. So, all right. And that's really going to do it for the show tonight. I want to wish everybody a happy Halloween. I have no idea what we're doing next week. That's how crazy October has been. I do have the show set up for 2 weeks from now. We're going to have Ben Miller. He runs a, right now I forget the name of his channel. Actually, I think his channel might be Ben Miller. But he does a lot of different, almost kind of like our Friday Night Ghost Frights, but, he goes into like a lot of legends and lore and ghost stories and stuff like that. And like from around the world. So Robert White, he does like some Australian stuff. I remember I was watching one of his videos on Australian things, and he was talking about the bunyip, and that was something from when I was a kid that I was kind of spooked about, just from a show that I watched back then. So he does like a lot of stuff like that. So it'll be interesting. We'll talk with him a little bit, and I just don't know about next week yet. So we'll line something up for next week. So
figure it out.
Yep, we'll figure it out. So, all right, guys. Shana, my love, thank you for joining us again this evening. Your chat Shananigator will be returned to you, Mad Hatters, when we have a regular guest again. Love the mask, of course. And then Vanessa, as always, of course. Thank you. So that's going to do it, everybody. You have a great evening. Happy Halloween. And happy birthday to my dad again.